Excellent. Thank you. Just honored to have an opportunity to represent JMU here on this national stage. Obviously, I think that we're one of the premier schools in the entire world with one of the premier fan bases in the entire world. And I said that last year in some capacity, but really didn't understand it until I had a chance to be in Bridgeford Stadium and just see the support that we have from our fans and from, just how passionate everyone is about this program. Just a huge thank you to Commissioner Gill on all that he has done. It's not easy to navigate these waters right now. And as a conference that, really relies heavily on regional rivalries, I think that's something that we're very proud of and something that we want to continue with. And as a conference that also has the divisions, that's something that, again, separates us from a lot of other places. So blessed, honored to be here, and thankful for everyone's leadership in the Sun Belt of what they've done up to this point in time. A lot of change has happened since the last time I stood on this stage a year ago. When I got here, there were 64 new players on the team, a whole new coaching staff, and a whole new school, and a whole lot that we had to learn in a very quick period of time. And I thought we had a nice year. I thought we did some things well. Obviously, to end with the first ever bowl game win in the history of the school is something we're really, again, honored. But there's a lot of games in there that we left on the table and things that we were not overly excited about, but from that failure should come a lesson. And I think that's our ability to fail forward is something that we're taking with us through that spring into the offseason. This year we also have 54 new guys on our team. So we have about 58 currently, and then we added 54 new to that. Of those 54, 30 of them were transfers, and then another 20-some were the high school guys that jumped in here. And ultimately, we're really proud of what we were able to do. When you look at our roster, you will see that we have 4 players coming back on offense, 4 players coming back on defense, but I don't believe that tells the true story. We had between 13 and 15 other guys that rotated through and played crucial minutes on offense, another 13 to 50 that played crucial minutes on defense, and then we added a whole lot throughout the transfer portal as far as production is concerned to the tune of another 13 or 15 guys both on offense and on defense. So I like where we're at. And then the group that I'm really excited about is that group that spent the past year with us that maybe weren't ready just yet to get on the field, but that's the group that's about to break through in that sophomore season, and I'm really excited to watch their production and their growth. Obviously, there's been a lot of change overall, but at our school in particular, we have a new president, President Schmidt, and very excited about his direction and his vision for where we're about to go. Matt Rohn was with us last year. Right around this time is about when he joined us, and his leadership through these moments has been really important as we enter into revenue share and all the other things that come with it, bleacher expansions, eventually a conversation about indoor facilities, helping with the overall, staffing, all the things that come with it. Very proud to have him leading the team and very proud to have him, as our athletic director. On our staff, last year we had our defensive coordinator, our linebacker coach that had moved on. We were able to bring in a guy by the name of Colin Hitchler, who was the co-defense coordinator at Alabama. Actually, Colin and I started coaching together at Salve Regina University in Newport, Rhode Island, back in, I think, the year 2010. He was our defensive line coach and assistant special teams, and obviously his career has, been on an upward trajectory ever since. So a lot of the things that we'll do on defense will look similar, and then there'll be a bunch that doesn't. And I think that, the success we've had with, being able to turn people over and play good defense. We have to continue with some of that, and then we have to put our own stamp on it as we move into this next year. Not only that, Dave Plunges joined our staff as a linebacker coach, and then Jacob Dobbs is back working with us. He was a player that was sitting on the stage a year ago, and he's now back on our staff, which I'm excited about. And then the 3 guys, that are also new to our staff are 3 analysts. One is Eric Mealy, who spent time at Mississippi State as the special teams coordinator. He was also at Washington State as the special teams coordinator, and he's been phenomenal, to be have him joining our staff. Scott Brisson is helping with the offense, and he is a guy that was the offense coordinator at Shippensburg University, Lehigh, and actually spent the previous year at Wake Forest University. And then Richard Rogers, his 14 years NFL career. Those 3 guys, were ultimately all coordinators at one point in time. And, one of them had a long stint in the NFL. But just really proud of, what we were able to do this past year, excited for what the future brings, and excited for these 2 guys that are here with me today. One is Pat McMurtrie on the left. He's in his 7th year of college football. working towards his doctorate at this point in time and doing a phenomenal job of it. Pat played for us at Holy Cross, redshirted a year, then had a medical and had also COVID, so he was able to come back out, and he's actually the only first-team All-Sun Belt selection, from what I understand, to be returning to that team this year. So we're proud to have Pat here with us, and then Trent Hendrick is a phenomenal football player, and you'll hear a whole lot more of him as this year goes on. But we have competitor levels within our team, and he is the ultimate competitor. Whatever it is that you're going to ask him to do or his group to do, he is going to take the lead and make sure that the group does exactly that. And that's something that I've been really proud to watch his growth. He's a guy that started his career at JMU and will end his career at JMU. And I want to applaud those guys that have done that with our program. That doesn't happen a lot. And those that do, I think, should be celebrated just as much as the transfer additions and the other guys that were currently on this team. But just excited for what the future holds. Really proud of some of the things we were able to do last year and excited to get right back out there. We have a challenging schedule, one that we welcome that challenge. We love the opportunity to test everything about our program in fire, and it's certainly fire. So, again, excited to be up here representing, I think, one of the premier schools, universities, alumni networks, fan bases in the entire country, and open up for questions.
We'll now open the floor for questions. Again, if you have a question in the room, please raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you. For those of you joining us online on Zoom, please type your questions into the chat and we'll read them into the room. And we have a Zoom question now. This is both for Coach and for the players. Coach, does the late season overtime loss to Marshall, did that leave you sort of with some motivation going into this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that obviously not only that game, there's a game before that, there's a game before that as well, and there's a couple in there that obviously we did enough to win, but we clearly did enough to lose as well. And I think those are all lessons. Like I said before, we certainly had our fair share of failure, but being able to fail forward is an important part of what we have to be able to do here. So understanding those things, understanding we protected the ball really well, we turned teams over really well, but in those games we did not. And those are the things that we got to get back to, and we just have to continue to finish games, especially when we're ahead. We have to be able to do better at that, and that's what the offseason's been focused on, and that's what this preseason camp will certainly be focused on.
To echo off what Coach said, it's not just the losses that you want to get back. Sometimes you want to get the wins back too. You have certain plays, certain quarters, maybe a drive that you just want to redo. And I feel like that's big going into this new season, preparing in the offseason, thinking about the losses that we might have took or what you could have done or what the team could have done to do better, to create a better product at the end of the game. So that's what the guys have been thinking as far as off-season workouts and mentality going into this new year.
Coach, Emmanuel Pepe, Sun Belt Conference. Just talk about, like you said, year one, you kind of had to hit the ground running, and I know you talked about there's things you'd like to improve going on this year, but just talking overall about the buy-in from the guys, especially in the locker room, and some of the things you did really well, and especially to end on a high note with a bowl victory and taking that kind of momentum forward into this year.
Yeah, anytime you could end your season on a win is a positive, right? That is momentum that you could carry into the next year, and we've done just that. But we've all learned a lot. We learned a lot as we went through this past year. I learned that every team is really good. They all got really good quarterbacks. They got great coaches. They play a tough brand of football, and they have a passionate fan bases. And I think those are things that we were able to learn as we navigated, this past year. But the buy-in was certainly there with those guys that stayed. Again, we had a lot of new guys on the team. And the bigger issue with last year is we didn't really know the guys that remained on our team, right? So we had 64 new guys, but the other guys that were on that roster we hadn't seen play, and we didn't have a ton of film evidence on them either. Again, we had a center, a guard, and a punter come back from last year. That's what we know, that were guys that started for us. Now, obviously, Trent and other players played a bit, but that was really it. This year, I feel like we have a much better understanding of who we are, of where we need to go, and just what every member of our team's strengths are, what every member of our team's weaknesses are. And I feel like we've solidified, this roster and provided ourselves with a whole lot more depth, which was needed.
We have a Zoom question from Dominic Cressetto of the Sun Belt Syndicate. This is for all three of you. What does the in-state matchup with Liberty mean for in-state attention and recruiting?
Well, let me just say that these are two passionate fan bases, right? As you watch those guys go back and forth and the excitement they have for this game, certainly rings true. And there's a lot of battles we had with Liberty and recruiting. And again, they're supported and funded really well, and we're going to continue to get ourselves in a better spot with that. But at the same point in time, I think this is, a game that's close enough to home that a lot of guys know about both programs, two really good programs, and it will be a battle, and we're excited for that opportunity.
Yeah, I personally was recruited heavily by Liberty, so like he said, the in-state rivalry definitely is big as far as recruitment and the players that we're going to be on the field with. I know a good handful of guys that play for Liberty, and I'm excited to get out there and play against them and see the guys.
Coach, just a question here about the quarterback room. Obviously, you got a few different cooks in the kitchen. Obviously, Matt Sluka coming in, transferring from UNLV. Camden Coleman transferring, one of the best highly ranked FCS quarterbacks last season. Then obviously Alonzo coming off that injury, but quarterbacked last year's team to a great season, bowl victory, 9 wins. So just what's the game plan with those three guys this season?
Yeah, well, let's just say where we were a year ago. A year ago, if you added up all the yards and touchdowns, that occurred in that room from the guys that were currently on that roster, there weren't many. Right now, with those three guys in there, there's close to 17,000 yards of production with 171 touchdowns when you count on the ground and through the air in crucial games, in competitive matchups, in really tough games. And I think that, to me, is what we now have, not only in the quarterback position, but in a lot of other positions. And that is something that we desperately needed as we went through it. As you know, Alonzo is a phenomenal quarterback. He's handled his rehab to the utmost. There's nothing, as I spoke to Tyler yesterday about, I don't know if he's missed a single appointment. He does extra work. He is just a worker. He is a phenomenal football player and a phenomenal young man. And we have a competition in there, which is exactly, where you want to find yourselves. Alonzo's in a good spot with his rehab, and he'll be back and be ready to go in the near future. He's not fully there for contact yet. I don't control that. I let them tell me when we can go, and we'll go. But at that same point in time, his progress looks really, really good, and those other guys in that room are fierce competitors as well. That's what you want. You find yourself in a spot where one of those guys gets rolled up on or a little bit nicked up and not as mobile as they can be for a game, and you're sitting back there and can't execute like you might want to execute. That's where we found ourselves a year ago. And I think this year there's a lot of production, that represents that room, not only that room, but almost every other room, and that's an important part for this organization.
Coach Chesney, Kelly Sander with the Eagle Hour in Hattiesburg. A lot of the teams had talked about problems with the conference as far as scheduling goes. There were a lot of complaints last year about not getting enough time between the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night games, having a Saturday game before or a Saturday game after. Seems to be really good feedback that the conference has listened to some of those concerns. Can you elaborate on those?
Yeah, I know. The only thing I could think of for us is that we played a Saturday night at ULM and then came back and played a Thursday night. And that was tough to get home at 7 or 8 in the morning and then turn around and play that Thursday. That one, was a challenge. But other than that, we're positioned for a Tuesday night in Texas against Texas State this year, but we have a bye right before it. And then that game will be played on Tuesday, which will Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday are basically, that's the game week. And then we're, back out there the following week. So I like where we're at right now. I think our schedule is as competitive as it's ever been. And I like the positioning of where we're at. Now, to play the number 1 and 2 team on the west side is something that's certainly a huge challenge for us and one we're excited about. But I thought as far as the dates, the times, everything that came with it, I thought it was handled very well.
Hey, Coach. Ben Cameron, KTSW San Marcos. I know you're only in year 2, and it takes some time to build a culture in a program, but what are the most important things to you in rebuilding or building your own culture in a program, and why are they important? And then for the players, what's it like being a part of that culture that he's trying to build?
Yeah, so I think for us, when we talk about our core values, we talk about having an attention to detail, a positive attitude, and urgency, and being able to attack all those things in a relentless manner. That's really important for us. And then you get into the football side of things, and you got to make sure that you're playing physical, tough football that's very fundamentally sound, and we put our guys in positions where they're tested and fire long before they ever step foot on that field. So everything we do is extremely competitive, and Trent and Pat could talk about that, but there's not a day that goes by that there's not competing happening in the weight room, whether it's with your teammates or with yourself. There's scoreboards all over the place for the winter, the offseason, the weight room. It'll be happening in preseason again, but a competitive, tough brand of football, fundamentally sound, schematically competent, situationally aware, understanding the ball and field position of the program is what we talk about day in and day out, and what we will continue to talk about.
Yeah, and just kind of going off of that, like it's definitely very cool to be a part of that culture. I think the biggest thing is just that everybody is constantly pushing each other. Everyone's held accountable, and I think when you see, the team across the board, everybody buy into what we're trying to do, it's definitely like pretty cool to be a part of that and to witness that.
Yeah, I really appreciate the way we run practice as far as you get a chance to compete every single day. And not to say that you're just going out there and competing against the guy across from you. It's legit. We call them compete periods. When he blows the whistle, stops practice, and all the eyes are on you. And we might go to a certain number, wide out DB, goal line one-on-ones to 4, first one win, or O-line, D-line one-on-ones, first ones to 6. And the whole team buys in, and it's moments like that bleed off into the rest of the season. During the game, it's fourth quarter late. Now you're just in the compete period, but you already prepped for that during practice.
Katie Harper with the Daily News Record. I know, Coach, it probably wasn't a hard decision for you to bring back Dobbs on your coaching staff, but kind of what went into that and getting him back into Harrisonburg?
Well, Jacob had an opportunity with a few camps, and then had some medical things that that disqualified him in the long run from a team that he thought he had a really good opportunity of making. I mean, that guy's a different guy, right? Like, when it comes down to it, his belief in our culture, his belief in, reaching his teammates when he was a player. I'm just excited to watch that, move itself over to the, to the defensive staff, and just to have a guy like that that's seen our program previously grow, and then to come in as an outsider to JMU and help and watch that grow and build those bonds with Trent and the other guys that were on the team, and listen to what they have to say about what a JMU football team is. Those are the things that are going to continue to unite this program for a long time. And, I don't think there's a better guy out there. As I'm 47 years old, those are things that, you get a little distant and a little further removed from what it's like to be a 18 to, 24-year-old these days. But there's Jacob, who's right on top of it, and just was one of them a year ago. And there's nothing better to have on your staff than that. Someone you trust, someone you can rely on, someone that can relate, and competent football coach, that in the end connects really well with these guys and is a man of very, very high character.
Got a question for both the players. With the culture of college athletics and, roster changes, as two voices in the locker room, what are some of maybe the challenges and then some of the, triumphs that you both have experienced with, balancing the returners versus the newcomers?
I would say some of the challenges, and it's not just at our program, I would say it's, nationwide. Just trying to teach tradition to some of the younger guys and newer guys. As a guy who's been at James Madison for 4 years, I feel like tradition is big as far as getting people acclimated to the culture. And sometimes when you try to reference like an event or something, you're like, oh man, you don't even know who that is, or you weren't there for that, and you think like, oh, okay, maybe I've been here for a little minute. So I just say moments like that are hard. But with the young guys and the transfers, I applaud them for just, buying in early, being vulnerable, with the guys, with the group. I feel like those vulnerable moments are really what builds the bonds and make you brothers.
Yeah, and then just kind of going off of that, I think one thing that this staff does a really good job of is they let you be yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes, guys, when they get to a program, might be a little afraid to be who they are and say their beliefs. But I think that, with our guys and preaching that, guys just are encouraged to be themselves. And I think when guys can realize that and accept that, it just it makes guys buy in a lot quicker, especially when they know that across the board, with the teammates and, guys in their position group, that they can kind of bond with them. So I think that makes it easier for us, in terms of building the culture.
Hey, Tyler Kennett from the Herald-Dispatch in Huntington. Question, I guess, for Coach and Pat both. Just for you, Pat, to start with, your experience over the years, just is there anything that sticks out that has elevated your game, or just that part of it? And then for Coach, like how valuable is his leadership as someone who has just compounded that progression over the years?
So, I mean, I think one thing that I've definitely more not so football related, but just one of the biggest things I've learned is just be where your feet are and don't, I guess, like, don't try to overthink too much, because if I looked back at my career, I probably wouldn't have never guessed 2 years ago I'd be sitting up here. I was at Holy Cross, so it's pretty crazy. And then obviously I had an injury, so I missed a whole year, and obviously that's another thing. You never really expect that stuff to happen. So I think for me, like, I've learned a lot of stuff as a player on the field, but also just kind of, just learning that at the end of the day, you have really no control. You just got to take it day by day and just kind of enjoy this process.
Yeah, and to answer that question on Pat, I think back to the injury that he had, and to watch him go through rehab, he set the standard of what it would be like to go through rehab a proper way. You don't talk a lot about that with your hurt guys, but when you have a hurt guy and he does everything right, he does it the way it's supposed to be done, and he shows up with a positive attitude trying to affect people, even though he can't play on a day-to-day basis. That, as a young player, was the first sign of leadership, for me. But he's pretty unflappable out there on the field. He does an unbelievable job. There's a lot that he gets faced with and a lot that he has to see, and his not only his lead up to the snap, but what his post-snap process, in communication, and his savviness and his poise and his patience are things that certainly stand out to me. But a lot of that he instills upon the other players in his position group, and that's a big deal.
So question here for Trent and Pat. So lots of turnover, as Coach mentioned, on both sides of the ball. Who have you guys noticed in your respective rooms on the O-line and then in the linebacking core? Any newcomers or just guys who have been making a name for themselves and who we should expect to be on the lookout for?
From the linebacker group, look out for a big year from Gannon Weathersby. He's a younger guy. He's been at James Madison for 3 years. I think he's going into his junior year right now. And he's a big energy guy on and off the field. On the sideline, he get the guys going. And he's himself every single day. He brings it every day. And I'm happy to be out there and go hit the field with him. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and then I'd say for the O-line, it was pretty cool last year that a lot of guys kind of got to rotate in and play a little. So they got a little bit of experience, but obviously I'm excited that Sweezy's back. That's obviously big for the O-line. And I think Joe Simmons is, who's one of our tackles. Like, he's done a tremendous job, works really hard. And then, obviously we brought in Zach Greenberg from, UNC, and he brings a lot of experience. And then obviously Riley coming back, Robel off an injury. I know I'm kind of naming guys across the board, but, those are guys that I've obviously been with and played with, and, I just see how hard they're working, so I'm excited to watch them.
The true alignment. He loves all his brothers on that line.
Hey, Coach, Tyler Kennett from the Herald-Dispatch in Huntington again. I just wanted to get your thoughts on your matchup with Marshall as the 75 game and the traditions surrounding it with the plane crash. You mentioned the divisions, I guess. Could you talk about the traditions in the East and the advantages of having, such passionate football in this division, but also just what that game might mean to be a part of it?
Yeah, I think it'd be special. I think that obviously that's a tragic situation, and one that we all learned about as we went through our years, and the movie that came out how long ago, and to know that we'll be the team that's present during that celebration of those lives, I think is something that we'll do certainly with honor and respect and as best we possibly can. And I just I'm honored to be part of that. But again, the regional rivalries is kind of what I started this conversation with. That's a really important piece of what this is, and what this conference is about. We recruit against each other quite a bit, and you find yourself in situations where fans have a lot to say to each other as they go into those, and the traveling of getting from place to place isn't too daunting. So I think those are what makes those matchups so special.